Hey there, Start here. I wasn't planning on doing any more videos between my last one and the upcoming Vision World at the end of the month, but I saw a post on the Brave Exvius Reddit that I think warrants sort of a public service announcement. I think it's important enough, at least for people who pulled for Celeste and are maybe trying to complete the current Clash of Wills. I think it's important to kind of make this known, because it's never really been, I think, an issue until recently. It certainly hasn't been anything that anyone's thought to check or to test. It's kind of gone unchecked and undiscovered until now. But someone posted on Reddit, suggesting that the way that mod boosts that scale with morale might not work the way that we think that they do. And this is true for me because I thought they worked a certain way, and turns out they do not work that way. And what I'm talking about, and I'm going to use Celeste specifically because she, I think you're going to see the biggest difference on a unit like her. Let's look at her coordinated teamwork ability. All right, so it has strengthened limit burst LB, physical LB, damage boost, 120 times mod boost for 5 turns. Has an effective morale range between 100 to 200. It goes up 2 times for each 2%, up to a maximum of 220 times mod boost, right? So that's a pretty big difference. All right, 120 times mod boost compared to a 220 times mod boost. That's a pretty significant difference in the modifier boost, depending on your morale. Now, the way I thought that this worked, and I think probably the way a lot of people think this works, is that when you cast it, the mod boost will increase, as your morale goes up. All right. So with a unit like Celeste, who has a 5-turn cooldown, I've been using her cooldown, coordinated teamwork, on turn 1 for a lot of my clears in Clash of Wills. Maybe turn 2 at the latest, right? Because it's a 5-turn cooldown, so, if I'm planning on a burst on turn 5, I want to make sure that I can recast this on turn 6 after my burst to kind of get set up for another round of bursts, right? So I assumed that even though I was casting this on turn 1, where, my morale is maybe right around 100%, that by the time I get to turn 5, that modifier will increase with my morale and be at the full 220 times by turn 5. Turns out that is not the case. That is not how it works. When you use this mod buff, whatever your morale is on that turn that you use the mod buff, that is what your mod boost is going to be. It is stuck at that modifier boost. So if you're at 100% on turn 1 and you use this ability, you're getting 120 times modifier, and it's still going to be 120 times modifier on turn 5 when you use your LB. If you want that full mod buff, which is an extra 100 times mod boost, which is pretty significant, if you want that extra 100 times mod boost, you need to use it when you're as close to 200%, if not right at 200%. All right, so preferably like right before you're planning to do your burst, like the turn before your burst, you want to use this ability, okay? So I think it's important to stress this because pretty much in all the clears I've done, if you've been following any of my clears that I've done in the current Clash of Wills and you're struggling to maybe hit the damage cap or struggling to deal enough damage to the boss, this is pretty significant by just changing the turn order that you use this ability. So if you use this ability, say you're doing your burst on turn 5, all right, instead of using this ability on turn 1, like I've been doing, use it on turn 4, right before your burst. You'll get up to an extra 100 times mod boost to Celeste's LB. This is pretty significant, and honestly, I'm surprised that it hasn't been tested or discovered up until now, and people have just kind of assumed, some people have assumed correctly that the way that it works is the way that it has always worked, but other people like myself have assumed that it actually actively scales with your morale, which it does not. I think this is going to be more important going forward if we see more units with these types of mod boosts going forward, or if we have units that add modifier boosts to other units. Like, for example, the original poster on Reddit used Sylvie's mod buff that's on her Braze Shifted LB. Now that's pretty small, a pretty small mod buff, but every little bit counts. So even with like Sylvie's LB mod buff, you want to make sure you're at 200% when you're using that to get the full mod buff. Sometimes I've used Sylvie's brave shifted LB mod, you know, like 2 or you know, up to 3 turns before my burst turn, just sort of in anticipation for it, so that I can use Sylvie maybe to do some chaining or give some killers or something like that. And you know, in hindsight now, I realize maybe that's not the smartest thing to do, because maybe I wasn't at 200% morale when I used that LB buff, right? I think Frosty also has this on his solitary sword dance. Yeah, so his is a 50 times base, goes up to 150. So again, you're potentially losing up to 100 times modifier boost if you used this, say, when you were at 100%, and then did your burst when you had 200%, right? Now this one's only a 3 turn, so there's a greater chance that you're going to use this like right before you do your burst. But with Celeste, I mean, 5 turns is a long time on a cooldown. Like, you know, it seems very easy for her rotation to just say, okay, I'm going to use this on turn 1 because it lasts for 5 turns. I can do all these other things in between, and I can have this mod boost to maybe do like 1 or 2 bursts along the way to my big burst on turn 5. But turns out that's just not the way that it works. Okay, so I first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the original poster on Reddit. I believe their name is Fava Mama on Reddit. They also go by Big Boy on Discord. So huge shout out to them for pointing this out. As soon as I saw that post, I immediately wanted to go in and do some tests of my own, specifically looking at Celeste. And yeah, sure enough, because I like to know how things work, and especially if it's a unit that I know I'm going to be using a lot in the future, I want to make sure I'm telling you guys the right way to use the unit from here on out. Now, I'm not going to go back and redo all of my clears because, you know, if you saw my last video, you know I'm kind of checked out on this game for a bit. But I do think it's important to get this information out there and make sure people are aware, so that we're all using these units and we're using their skills to maximum effect. Right? So that's pretty much the upshot. The upshot is use mod boosts when you're at or close to 200% morale to get the maximum effect, because if you use them before that, when you're at a lower morale, you're going to get a lower mod boost. So if that's all you wanted to take away from this video and all you care about, go ahead and click away now. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how I personally tested it in Clash of Wills. Okay, and so I went in, and I wanted to set it up so that I could have like sort of an ideal but easy testing scenario. So I picked a lower level. I went with 69 because, hey, it's the funny number, right? Why not? And at this level, I could very easily hit 200% morale on turn 2, so that I can do my LB on turn 2, right? Or in the case of where I'm using the mod boost at 200%, I can do that on turn 2 and then LB on turn 3, okay? Now, what I'm going to show you, I'm just going to show you how I did each scenario. I'm not going to do multiple tests. I did 5 runs under each scenario to calculate an average, and the average damage difference was about 15%. So a 15% drop in damage by using her mod boost at 100% morale compared to using her mod boost at 200% morale. That's pretty significant, especially if you're like, you know, just coming short of hitting the damage cap. That could be the reason why, right? And so I'm going to show you what I did here. Now, you may be saying, well, damage variance can easily account for what we're about to see. And that's only if she's equipped with a weapon, okay? I took her weapon off. She has no weapon. There is still a final variance in the damage calculation. So, you know, at the very end of the damage calculation in this game, there's still a final variance where basically everything is multiplied by 0.925 or up to 1. So it's like 92.5% to 100%, you know, is the final variance. And so there is still the potential for a little bit of variance, which is why I had to run each scenario multiple times to make sure that I was getting an average damage. So here's what we're going to do. This is the team. I had the EX levels set so that I'm at exactly 0 morale to start, which is going to be 100%. So I'm going to start at exactly 100% when I cast the mod boost. Turn 2, I'll have 200%, and we're just going to go from there. All right. So the gear on all these units are irrelevant. Honestly, they could all be naked, but I just wanted to make sure that I could very easily hit the levels that I needed, and also in order to make sure that we are able to kill this thing, you know, in one turn, easy peasy. So let's get in here. I'll show you scenario A, which is using the mod boost at 100%. Oh, don't you be doing this. Don't do these connection areas to me. Nope, I'm not re-recording this. We are going to do this. There we go. Alright, you just got to get me through 2 fights here. That's all we need. Alright, so Kaito's just here to do crashing waves. Alright, Sylvie is just going to do some buffs. We're just trying to do everything to generate 200% morale. Okay, we're going to do Electromagnetic Storm Guardian, Shatter Bolt. Kresnik just does Arcane Stimulant. Alright, Melissa just does Shelga, Shared Immunity, Chronic Flow. Okay, now do keep in mind the morale doesn't actually get factored in until the end of the turn. So it's okay that we're going to go ahead and, you know, build up the morale now. All right, it doesn't actually come into effect until the end of the turn. All right, so we're going to do our coordinated teamwork. Okay, so since we're at 100% morale, all right, that means our mod boost is only going to be 120 times. We'll do Dazzling Neon Bright Future just to make sure that we kill this thing next turn. All right, so there you go. We're at 200%. Okay, Esther Omni covers everything, so we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, at this level, the boss is so weak, it honestly doesn't matter. All right, so now all we have to do, Celeste just has to do her her LB. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to save time and not do her Brave shifted LB. Okay. All right. So this will definitely kill the boss, but what we want to keep in mind is the final value. So when I ran this, you know, 5 times each, what we were seeing, I was seeing, yeah, it's about pretty typical, usually between 5 and 6 billion on that one. So the average was, I think, like 5.6 when I ran it multiple times. So 5.7 is definitely within that sort of expected value range. Whereas, as you're going to see in the next one, the expected average was 6.6. So it was between 6 and 7 billion when I did it before, or when I did it the mod boost on turn 2. So I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to show you what I did to replicate, you know, a scenario where you're using the mod boost at 200%. And again, I'm just doing it once. So honestly, variance could, like that final variance could honestly like be a factor here. Okay, and I'm just going to reload and repeat all these guys, except I'm going to guard Celeste. All right. Don't have to, it's nice at level 69, you don't have to worry about anybody dying. Okay, but everything pretty much stays the same. The only difference is we are going to use this mod boost on at 200% morale. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. All right, so we've got, oh, nope, come on. Coordinated teamwork, Dazzling Neon Bright Future. Okay, everybody else just guards. All right, so now we should have a 220 times mod boost on her LB, and we'll see how that affects her LB damage. Okay, so now all she has to do is her LB, and we'll see the difference. And you can test this yourself. You know, you can go in and you can do as many runs as you want. I did 5 runs each to calculate my averages. You could do 10 runs, you could do 20 runs, but yeah, you are going to see a definite difference. All right, there's going to be no question. Okay. Well, yeah, 6.9. So that's a massive. That's an over 1 billion right there. All right, over 1 billion worth of damage. So it is a massive, massive loss of damage to use that mod buff when your morale is not at maximum level. Okay. So if that doesn't, I mean, if that doesn't demonstrate what I'm trying to get at here, then I don't know what does. But basically, the TLDR here is using a mod boost that scales with morale at a lower morale value will basically lock you into that lower mod boost. So you want to save those mod boosts that scale with morale until you are at a higher morale value, preferably like the turn right before your burst. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to say here. You know, like I said, I'm not going to go and redo all of my Clash clears, but if you have been following any of my clears and you're struggling with the damage, try moving Celeste mod boost up in the turn order, doing it like turn 4 if you're doing a turn 5 burst, or turn 3 if you're doing a turn 4 burst, or something like that. Okay, so these are just some things to keep in mind, and especially going forward, I'm gonna definitely start making sure that I'm using these mod boosts so that we can maximize their effect. All right, so thank you guys so much for following me. Again, don't expect to see anything until Vision World comes around, unless there's, you know, something that I think is really, really important that needs to be brought up, like this particular case. And I'm only doing this because I've used Celeste in all of my Clash clears, and I want you guys to make sure that you are using her to her greatest ability and greatest effect, so that you're able to potentially clear this Clash of Wills much easier. So yep, again, thanks for following me, and I will see you guys on the other side.